on 94 WKTI Milwaukee, breaking the middle in the morning, and the best hits of the 80s and 90s all day long. It's just about midnight, and I'm Bob Koenig. Thanks for listening.
That's called Hitting the Post, ladies and gentlemen, and this is New Job Who Dis. Well, kick back and welcome back. I am your host and hostess with the most and the mostest, Halston Body, your prism of excellence, here for you to guide you through 25 plus years of jobs, careers, attempts, pipe dreams, things that I thought I could never do in my lifetime, but somehow here we are on the timeline of New Job Who Dis, and we're nearing the year 2000, the millennium that everyone celebrated and or feared is coming right around the corner. To catch all of you lovely viewers, the 10 viewers that I have, the 10 listeners and viewers of New Job Who Dis, thank you for watching and listening. Thank you for being part of the New Job Who Dis family. But I appreciate that. Thank you for being part of this. This is where we are, folks. Catch up. Be a part of where we're at. You have some binge listening and watching to do, because there's a lot to catch up on. But as we last checked in, and as you heard at the top of the hour, yours truly was enjoying the hard work and labor, the spoils of that, by working at his dream job of the time, of the now, of the I cannot believe that I'm actually doing this as a day job, working at a radio station in Milwaukee, Wisconsin called 94 WKTI. With Reitman and Miller in the morning and the best hits of the 80s, 90s, and today. Listen, we did it. I was immersed in the safety of Jewel, Alanis Morissette, Toni Braxton, very female demographic, very listen while you work station. But after you got home from work and time to kick back and party, we listen to some hot AC jams. What are the kids listening to on the MTV dial? What's out there? That's where I worked. And it was the best job. The best job. Oh, before it, working at the record store, working at Musicland, Sam Goody, working at Radio Doctors. Oh, mwah, primo jobs. The best jobs of the day, the best jobs that I could have had for the time. Foundations, though. Those are foundation jobs. Got me all the way to Detroit, got me all the way back to Milwaukee. Through a degree in audio broadcasting at Specs Howard School of Broadcast Arts, I'm working as a board operator. I land a job at my hometown radio station in Milwaukee that I grew up listening to. And by the way, this radio station, when I say I listened to this radio station, I did. Not only did I listen to it, but I also watched it. Because in the era of MTV being the thing, and Friday night videos being on NBC, and videos being the culture topic and thing of the now, radio stations in certain markets, including Milwaukee, had their own video show, some sort of tie-in to their radio station's programming. And I absolutely remember watching the jocks that I was currently working with on 80s local television in Milwaukee on the Saturday morning video music machine. Oh yes, that's what it was called. 94 WKTI's Saturday morning video music machine with Lips LaBelle or Danny Clayton. And I got this job and I was on air and I was full-time. I mean, as full-time as I can get. I mean, I wasn't on benefits and I wasn't part of salary. I wasn't a face of the station. And that was my downfall. I didn't understand that I was somehow now in somewhat of an entertainment level of business. I was on radio. I still had a sort of an old school mentality in my head that I thought, oh, well, I can just be this guy in the studio, this schlub. I didn't walk around dressing in nice polos and khaki pants and fitting the Caucasian work environment part. Oh no, I was still a scrappy kid coming out of school and, just kind of making it, not being a style person yet. No, not really fitting in my own, the butterfly wings had not shown up yet. Oh no, I have some pictures. What was I wearing back then? I was a mess. Just not looking good. I mean, I wasn't messy. I wasn't sloppy. I just did not play the part. That's the easiest way to describe it. And that tied into the eventual downfall of me not having that job anymore. It's not because I didn't want it, but I talked about this in the last episode. And that is the heartbreak of hearing one of your hometown hero radio disc jockeys, Danny Clayton, pretty much tell you in no uncertain terms, I wasn't cut for the station's voice anymore. I could probably do production. That was the saving grace. I don't blame Danny Clayton one bit, because looking back, he was absolutely right. I was not fit. And, the other part of that, too, is it's all my fault. I don't blame a single person at that station. I don't blame Kid O'Shea, whose name was Steve back then, who eventually took my spot. He was younger than me, way younger. In fact, I think he was just getting out of high school when he was coming into the station. Again, do I blame anyone? No, I blame myself because I was stagnant as a voice on air for that long. I just didn't, it's almost like I was signed too early. If that makes sense. I was put into the big leagues too early. I wasn't ready. I didn't have a seasoned radio voice. I did not have my own voice. I was just doing what I was trained to do. I was just doing what fit the 11 seconds I had to introduce this song or what have you and cut in on it, right? I have to talk about Hanson, or I have to talk about, the Wallflowers, or the 90s band, right? Savage Garden. We're talking about what's going on, and I was just a robot. I mean, they could have just used a Siri voice or an Apple voice of some sort that would have just said things, because that's all I was doing. There's no soul behind it. I mean, a little bit. There was moments when I listened back to some of the tapes that I found. There is a heart there, but there is no soul, baby. There is no. I am just a guy telling you things. I'm just going 94 WKCI, words and sounds and things you need to do. Bye. There's nothing to it. And I'm very young, and I'm very high-pitched and very high-strung. Oh, deep. So I don't say that I failed at the job. It just fell through my hands like sand. That's really what it did. I was working really hard at it, but it just fell through my hands. Didn't say I couldn't do it. It's not to say I had no talent. But looking back, I didn't realize how heartbroken I was. I really didn't. I didn't feel it like a complete punch to my chest at the time, because there was a part of me that probably saw the writing on the wall. There was a little intuition that said, man, they're not involving me in things that I should probably get involved in. I'm not able to go to the meetings of the staff and the on-air things unless I'm not sleeping whatsoever. Things that I felt like I was just not able to partake in that were probably important, but I was either not invited or just, again, it was just fading out. It's really what I was. And then here comes this young hotshot and talented kid, no pun intended, Kid O'Shea, talented guy. He worked at The Mix, WMYX. That was our competitor. I think it was 99.1 The Mix. He worked, I think it was a morning show on them. He came out on air. It was great. Entertainment reporter now for a local affiliate, ABC 7 affiliate, something like that. God love him. Great. Speaking of God, Danny Clayton, I think, went on to a religious station in Milwaukee. He became the morning show, I think, eventually at KTI when it became The Lake. There's all sorts of switcheroos, but yeah, I had to start looking these people up. I'm like, where is Lips LaBelle? Where are the Leonard Pieces in this world? And they're all still in Milwaukee, living a good life. Danny Clayton's working on, I think, WTMJ. Yeah, great guy. Listen, they're all great. Loved them. Again, one of my favorite jobs in the world. I got along with everybody. I didn't have a problem with anybody. Again, that Luke Sanders guy. Long story short, I brought him up in the last podcast in the video cast about Luke Sanders. That guy was the epitome of the reason why I kind of clench my teeth about that guy. He didn't do me any wrong. He was the first guy that I ever worked with that easily I could point to the hairs on the back of my neck bristling because he felt like the kind of guy that was only in radio to get laid. For real, the impression that I got when I spoke with him, the conversations that I'd had with him in studio about the girlfriends and the girls, there was a level of sleaze that clouded my vision of Luke Sanders. I didn't do anything to me, was not a mean guy to me, was not anything wrong. It was my early impression in my young career trajectory and just in radio. That was the first guy I was like, I don't like this guy. I should give him credit because that was the first time I was faced with an understanding of why I was at a workplace. And what I mean by that is I never have gone to work with this intention of, I hope to either get laid or have some sort of interaction or something of that nature is going to happen to me at work. They say there's a phrase, don't take a crap where you eat. I'm trying to keep this PG so I don't have to mark it as unsafe. But again, that was the first time I sort of scratched that wallpaper of understanding myself in a way of like why I was in a workplace. Why was I there? Was I there to work or was I there to do something else? And that guy was the first example I ever really had of somebody who was working that gave this aura of my fringe benefit that I explore and or use to my advantage by having this job is getting some. And I was like, didn't like that, but I didn't know how to express it. I didn't do anything with it. I just kind of went, okay, not it, not me. Fun 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon moment for Luke Sanders. He ended up working at a new radio station, a trend in radio in the late 90s that happened. And I love how this story ends. So I'm no longer, well, actually, I was still working for the radio station, but Luke Sanders left. He went for a new opportunity in the radio game, and it was in Milwaukee. It was all the way at the end of the dial. It was something like 105.7 or 104.9, something way at the end of the radio dial. And it was called The Point. I don't remember how long that trend lasted, but I remember it coming and going very fast. Get the point? Joan, get the point. And the problem with The Point that in the short time and the short burst on the radio scene that The Point had was, I don't remember the genre. I think they were trying to compete in the hot AC market, but it was something else, and they were trying something alternative-ish, but I couldn't remember the point. Luke Sanders went over to the Point, and I think he was he was either the morning show or he was the afternoon drive. Afternoon drive is the step up from the evening guy. In the typical hierarchy, morning show is top, afternoon drive is second, most traffic, nighttime is third, midday is fourth, overnights, womp womp, that's me. So either way, he got the evening show or the afternoon drive on the Point. Great. The program director of the Point, kicking Chris Kerr. Chris Kerr, as we remember him from previous episodes, working at WHZZ, meeting him while I worked at Musicland when he was working at WLUM. Hot 102.1, WLUM. Ooh. Well, became the program director of the Point. And that was short-lived because even back in the day of AOL and CompuServe and Alta Vista and the slowest Internet Explorer spinning globe that you could ever imagine, Mr. Chris Kerr got picked up on a underage soliciting ring that rang through the internet in that era. This is before even DSL. This is still dial-up. We're making dial-up sounds in commercials on the radio, and this guy somehow got roped in and or stung. Boy, that girlfriend he had, she was young. I don't remember how young she was, but it all came together, and when we all heard it, our mouths were like, holy, we couldn't believe it. And Danny Clayton looked at me because I told him about Chris Kerr. He knew Chris Kerr. People know everybody in radio, I guess, right? Especially in the same markets, same stations, things. People know him. When Kicking Chris got stung by a underage soliciting thing, I mean a sting, I guess, sting operation online. Oh my God. Wow. How to wrap that up? I'm telling you. So I'm now out of a job. It's literally winding down. There's no really turning back on WKTI. Rest in peace. Let's do our little seance, light a candle. Thank you, WKTI. Thank you, Danny Clayton. Thank you, Lips the Bell. Thank you, Leonard Peace. Thank you, Luke Sanders. Thank you, Kyle Christopher. Not Kyle Stevens. It was Kyle Christopher. Kyle Christopher. Thank you, everybody. Lisa Letterman. Thank you, Kid O'Shea. Thank you, everybody. Dan Kyle. That was the nighttime guy they brought in after Luke Sanders. Dan Kyle. I forgot his name. But yeah, thank you, everybody, from that time. It was amazing. And I could always put a wish out there in the universe that maybe someday I'll get back to the radio world. But you never know. We got a long way ahead of us. How do I transition out? How do I get out of radio? And why? How does it affect me? Well, obviously, because my hours are starting to go away, so to speak. I was still doing a lot of part-time stuff. I was still doing a couple board op shifts. I was keeping it cool. So I had to find work. Well, my friends that I had connected with back when I worked at the M&M Club for the very short period of time that I did as a line cook, a very short order cook for a brunch and a Friday night dinner service. It was rough. Long waits. Boy, that job brings it all back of my friendships with the people that I gained from working at that job. It almost brings a tear to my eye because it was such a transitional time in my life of finally living the young past 21 life that I was meant to live. You know, there are times in my timeline here that I would consider myself a late bloomer. It's not because I purposefully bloomed late. It's because of just what I was doing and not thinking about how old I was, realistically. I mean, when I was 21 and I was just coming out, oh, of course, right after I turned 21 and I was still in Milwaukee, I went out to the clubs. Absolutely. Not very much. I wasn't rich. And remember, I was having all those strep throat moments, so it wasn't like Club Time USA all the time. But I had to put it on pause because I was chasing this new dream of becoming a DJ, and I spent time in Detroit. I had some moments in Detroit going out to the clubs. I DJ'd in a couple clubs, and it was fun. But I was not going out after those 8 to 9 months of pure work and school. There was no clubbing for me and no having a good time out in the party scene of your youth and, drinking and staying up too late and doing all the things that you're supposed to do in your young 20s, right? Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Isn't there a book about this somewhere? I don't know. All I know is that's what I did. So after I got out of, I was losing hours. My new friends, Tim, who worked as a bartender at a leather bar called The Boot Camp. I know it sounds like it's out of a movie. No, it was the leather bar at the time, and that's a whole nother podcast. And then my friend Steve, who eventually became my best friend, Steve, was working at another bar called South Water Street Docks, and that was another gay bar that was on the far end of the railroad tracks, but there was this whole loop. I talked about this in earlier episodes of the bar district, the gay and lesbian bar district area of Walker's Point, and that whole south of downtown where you could walk from bar to bar, and most of the bars were all right there. Well, they worked in bars, and I was like, hey, what does it take to become a bartender? Okay, you got to take that class, right? You got to take the class of safe serving and understanding the law and carding and all those things, right? Well, got to do that. That's on the checklist of practicality. But then what it really made me interested in that is the fact that I was working in radio. Well, when you're working in radio, you should have some sort of personality. This will prove to you that I didn't have a personality while I was working in radio. But the minute I started getting out of radio, it started to show up. While I was working in radio, I was, juggling restaurant jobs, going through them like water. I talked about this before. I started, when I first landed in Milwaukee, I landed at this place called the M&M Club, which is like a piano bar that happened to have a restaurant with it. And it was more of a bar, right? It was more of just the casual, sit at the bar and drink all day and be friends with everybody. Everybody knows your name kind of bar. And then I left there because I was working in radio, so I had to fit my schedule, and working on Friday nights and Sundays was not going to work anymore. So I got another job at a local deli. It was downtown, and I was working Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday, real early in the morning, prep work, breakfast sandwiches for the downtown working staff that needed a quick grab and go before they started their workday. Left that job because I was just not happy and I was getting more hours at radio. So I just was like, deuces, left there. In between there, I forgot, I talked about the very short time I was at the Oakland Trattoria. First time I was a server. Didn't go well. Fat people don't listen, fat people named me do not like button-down shirts and belts and tightening things to look really prim. I'm kind of a potato at this point. Still kind of am. But I'm working it now. Back then, not cute. And so I'm, working another job while I'm working in radio to fit after I leave all that, I find a job at Rock Bottom Brewery. Rock Bottom, it was a chain restaurant, comes out of Colorado. I get a job there. I start working as a server, but then I go into becoming a pizza cook because they had fresh, wood-fired pizzas. And they had a pizza station where you could watch the guy make your pizza. And it was A lot of flash and fire for a restaurant. A lot of space and ceiling room for a restaurant. And it was, again, I was proof once again. My personality was not shining because I was a server. Tips were not great. I was not a great server. Kind of a schlub, just not in the memorization game as far as orders and just getting it down pat and understanding. My brain wasn't there. That was the other reason. I was trying to work the job in the same way I was trying to work Pronto, where I was just in autopilot mode making sandwiches. Well, as a server, I couldn't be in autopilot mode. I had to be on my feet. I had to be personable. I had to try to at least fake it till I made it. Well, I never made it. Strike two as a server, by the way. Strike two. Not a great server. Personality wasn't there yet. It wasn't built in. It didn't pop. I did not have the shine yet. All right, pizza cook. That was cool, right? I mean, that was fine. But jobs I was not interested in. Again, just working with what I had in the bag of tricks. Restaurants. So now I've collected 4 short restaurant jobs in about 2.5 years time. Because I'm burning through them to try and survive while I'm trying to make my radio dreams come true. Radio dreams go away. Well, what do you got to do? What do you got left in that bag of tricks of yours? Well, let's shake it up a bit, shall we, Halston Body? Shall we? Yes, we shall. Here's how we're going to shake it up. And this is going to go into Monday's episode because there's a wrap-up that needs to happen before we go into the epilogue. We're going to have a recap episode. That's right. In a couple episodes, at least, we're going to have a little recap for everybody to catch up on. And for those who haven't watched the entire thing, come on. No, I'm with you. Come on, my 10 listeners are coming with me. We're doing this. We're going all the way. So, there's a wrap up on both jobs because there was a time where I was working, wow, shock, 2 jobs. Working at the radio station, hours is not as plentiful for me because they're bringing this kid O'Shea guy in. His actual name was Steve, so they're bringing Steve in. He's working some of my shifts to get his feet wet, and he sounds great on radio. Well, I saw the sign. I opened up my eyes. I saw the sign. Well, what is somebody who has had somewhat of a personality figures that out at this point, by the way? I mean, I've been in radio. I graduated at the top of my class in broadcasting. I've been on air talking to 50,000 people at a time. Talking on air, breaking the news of Princess Diana's death. I mean, I've been able to overcome that and be able to talk to people. New skill set built in once you've broken down that wall. I mean, that's something I can give Danny Clayton all the credit in the world for telling me. He said, when you're on air, especially in Milwaukee, and you're the overnight guy, imagine you're standing on a stage, and I'm in LA now, so that's the Staples Center. Standing on the stage of the Staples Center. Crowd is packed, ready for a concert. Or back in Milwaukee, it was the Marcus Amphitheater. Name your stadium. You're standing on stage. There's a mic. There is a spotlight. Hot mic. You better have something important to say every time you pop that mic open. Wow. What a mental and psychological breakdown that is for me to try to remove the fear of public speaking. I mean, school, yeah, sure. When I'm going through school and getting all the A's and collecting all the, the good grades for being able to do this job as far as I could tell back then. But when I actually feet to the fire, not as skilled or at least not progressing yet. Just no voice, do not have the voice. So I'm scrambling. What job could possibly take in a skill of restaurant, public speaking, radio, serving, public facing, customer support, or customer service, as they called it back then? Well, two friends who are bartenders. What do you think I had to sniff around and think I could do? Especially in a city like Milwaukee. Oh, it's one of the drinkingest cities in this country. Holy smokes, of course. Why not try becoming a bartender? Why not? You've done all the components. All you've got to learn how to do is serve safely and learn how to make some weird drinks that people normally don't ask for. I'm going to break the secret of bartending for anybody listening right now. When you see those bartending schools and they are, $1,000, they're taking your money. Because when you're just bartending at a bar or a tavern, if you will, corner place, but even a club, most people are drinking beer, tap beer bottle, so you don't need to know any recipes for that. Or the double combo, vodka soda, vodka orange, vodka cranberry, right? Tequila sunrise. Okay, there's 3 in there. But simple. It's rare that somebody's going to come in and wants, I need a Harvey Wallbanger. Like that doesn't, what, unless you're in a fancy hotel and this is fancy drink time and you know that this is a sommelier is on duty, and yes, you're going to have somebody who's a mixologist. Absolutely. But when you're in the beer bust bar, swilling 2-for-1s, you're not ordering crazy bartending stuff. So that was the secret that was blown. It was like the magician's code that was given to me by my friends who were already bartenders. As long as you know how to pour shots, as long as you know how to be friendly, try to make sure to keep people buying drinks, keep asking politely, but not too often. Check in on them. You're the host. That was the secret to bartending. Again, nobody ever, if somebody did come in with some weird request, they would usually tell you how to make it. They wouldn't just give you free reign and give you a name, be like, you're going to make me an alien, garbage pail. Well, what is that? You're going to get you're going to get the ingredients. So, of course, being in Milwaukee, one of the drinkingest towns, and I have 2 friends who are bartenders, I'm like, y'all hiring? Places they were working were not hiring at the time, but they knew of a new place called Woody's that was opening up. And Woody's was going to be a corner bar, a little off the beaten path. Again, I talked about those bars being within walking distance. Now, realistically, you could easily walk to this bar, but it's not the 1 or 2 blocks away. This was easily a good 6 to 8 blocks, maybe 10 blocks away from everything else that was hustling and bustling in the bar circuit. So it wasn't necessarily part of the next door neighborhood, so to speak. It was just the furthest one south all of a sudden. And there was nothing else around it. It was like there was a bus depot and a corner. There was another corner tavern, down the way, just like a kitty corner down the way. It wasn't very, populated. It was south of this giant factory industry building called Allen Bradley, downtown Milwaukee, south of downtown. It was south of that. And it was just kind of this off the beaten path, little tiny corner bar. Personality, experience in restaurants. Hey, I worked in radio. I used whatever clout I could to get a job becoming a bartender. And I was catching them on a good time because they were opening this bar brand new. It was a grand opening. We're going to start this new bar called Woody's. And bars have themes. I mentioned earlier that there was a leather bar, and my friend Steve worked at a place called Doc's. Doc's was just kind of another friendly corner tavern bar. There wasn't a theme to it. There wasn't a crowd. It was just kind of your everyday Joe bar. There wasn't a specific theme to it. It wasn't a dance club. There was a jukebox, a pinball, pool table, kind of, again, corner tavern vibe to it. Woody's was going to be the same, except it had more of this feeling of sports to it. It wanted to be the sports bar. And back in the late 90s, that wasn't necessarily a thing yet in the, I guess, the pick a theme for your LGBT bar. It was dance clubs, leather bars, lesbian bars, corner bars, drag bars, dance clubs. I mean, there was all the categories, but sports bar was kind of a fresh thing, at least in Milwaukee. And I talked about Milwaukee being a very sports-oriented place to be. Yeah, it was very Packers, Brewers, Bucks, hockey, all of it. Very into sports. Sports town. Church and Packers. And go Brewers go, even though they haven't been to the series since 1982. Whew, we won't talk about that. We must go on. So somehow I got this job at Woody's to cover my bills. Again, we have bills piling up. Credit card living is not easy. Making money, getting by on rent, living with 3 roommates, living on the east side. Things are just fine and dandy. Living with cheap rent. Just making my dreams come true, but then fall apart. Start working at this bar. First time ever working at a bar. And, again, I've had some experience being in a bar, but I've never been on the other side of the curtain. This is kind of fun. Pretty easy job. Nothing to write home about. Nothing I can remember specifically like, oh my God, I finally learned how to make, a vodka cranberry. No, there wasn't. In fact, I brought some drinks to the table because of Pronto. I still had their menu and I still remember some of their fun and funky drinks from their bartending. So I brought some drinks of my own to the table, and I, went on the internet and looked up fun shots and crazy things. So at that point, Woody's was okay, and I was working there very part-time. I think I had 2 shifts, maybe 3. So here I'm struggling to get full-time at KTI, losing shifts there, starting to pick up shifts at Woody's. Trying to balance it all, trying to make it work in some way, shape, or form. But it's not enough. It's just not enough. And KTI, again, is crumbling in front of me. Not making the money I need to make. Not doing what I want to be doing there. So I got to find another job. Bartending is fine. I find the theme hadn't really been formulated yet. I mean, it was just another corner bar as far as the aesthetic. If you looked at Woody's and you took out anything that was rainbow themed or rainbow signage of any sort, including the rainbow neon in the front window, if you took it all out, it would just look like another corner tavern. And becoming a bartender was also, it felt like I had no problem learning and becoming how to be a bartender. I already had register experience by working in customer support and working as a manager and counting down drawers and making deposits and doing all the things to open a store and close a store. I already had that from working in retail. Customer support and talking to everybody and be friendly. Already had that practice, doing that all in retail, approaching people without any fear. Hey, how's it going? How you doing today? What can I get you? That kind of thing. Already had that. Working in radio, talking to a lot of people. Already had some sort of personality. It was starting to peak out a little bit because now I'm allowed to be myself. I'm not on radio. I'm not stifled by being, listening to an audience of late night listeners. And the demographic that we were chasing after, which is, again, female 25 to 40. I think it was 25 to 42 was our chase after demographic. I was just out there being my as best formed gay self as I possibly could in my mid-20s, being a bartender. There was only one memory I have other than meeting this boyfriend at this new bar is the one time, because I'm sure this has got to happen to every bartender in their sparkling careers as bartenders is in Milwaukee, at least back then, there was not a lot of laws about drinking behind the bar. There wasn't any, I mean, obviously you had to serve safe, but as long as you could hold your own, you could have a beer. You could be drinking behind the bar. There wasn't anything like bartenders were not allowed to have any booze whatsoever. Oh, no. I remember getting shots purchased for me or somehow partaking in shots to the point where I dropped and broke an entire bottle of Chambord on the ground in this bar. So the bar smelled like grape and it was sticky for a couple days until we got it all cleaned up because I was so bombed behind the bar. I couldn't hold this bottle. Holy smokes. How did I get away with it? I just did somehow. I'm surviving. That's really where I'm at. I'm surviving. I'm working at Woody's. I can't knock the bar one bit. It's still in Milwaukee. It still exists as a bar, as Woody's, as a sports bar. It's still there. Milwaukee's premier LGBT sports bar. Hey, I helped open that place. I don't even know if the owners are still the owners. Have no idea. Have not been into the place since I left. Yes, I left. There's not a lot of drama with it. It was just, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to why I left. We're going to get to why I left in the next episode. Yes, I can't give you it all, darlings. I know. In my previous episodes, I've been going on quite a bit. So I feel like I need to spread this one out a little bit because there's a lot of merging going on. We merge out of 94 WKTI eventually. Obviously, just not working out. Bartending is okay, making some okay money, but not enough. How do we get there? How do we keep supplementing whatever is left with KTI? Because I'm only with KTI until the beginning of 99 is when I finally am like, it's over. Time to set sail and move on and figure out what I got to do with my life. Let's all shed a tear for the end of my radio career. 94 WKTI, it's over. I am now working part-time as a bartender at Woody's, and we are about to merge into my next full-time career while I still manage to bartend, and we merge out of Woody's into another bartending job that becomes the most, I would say, fun time I've had working a job with little restraint and little restriction, if you will. So Woody's was a blast. KTI, love ya, but Mama's got to pay the bills. Mama has to pay those credit cards down. I've got to make it on my own. I got to figure it out because radio and I had a very gentle breakup, and it's time to figure out how I'm going to pay the bills. We start with bartending, and we merge into what's next, and that is going to be on Monday's episode. Thank you all for listening. It's a short one this time. I appreciate your attention. We're going to find out how we wrap it all up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in the late 90s, all the way up until 2000. Here at New Job Who Dis. Again, thank you for listening here at Apple Podcasts, if you're listening there. Spotify, please listen there as well. Also, please leave some feedback. If you're listening on Podbean networks, please subscribe everywhere you can. And please leave some feedback, leave some stars, darling. 5 stars, if you will. And that would be super nice and appreciated from me, Halston Body, to you. Thank you for watching here on YouTube as well. We will be back on Monday. We being the royal we. Halston Body, you can see me managing and guiding and assisting the queen of championship wrestling from Hollywood on Fight TV, and it is coming back. We'll be back with new episodes and new adventures at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood on the United Wrestling Network. Please follow, please like, look up Heather Monroe as well on all social media channels. and me, Halston Body. Thank you for listening. This has been New Job. Who dis?